Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. For those of you that don't know me, I am Zephyra Burt. I'm the programs coordinator with Tahoma Bird Alliance, which is a chapter of the National Audubon Society. And today I am happy to be joined by Chronicles Press, which is Addie and Phoebe and her husband back here. And they are a local publishing house based out of Seattle. And the book that they're presenting for us today is Birdbrains, which is a lyrical birding guide. And since we're an organization that is focused on like conservation and education and helping folks kind of build a affinity for nature and the outdoors, like through recreation and education and like recreational things as well, I thought this would be a great fit for our organization and members because of the kind of way that it combines both like art and information in a field guide. All right, and Abby here will be our MC for the evening. Yay!
Thank you, Zephyra. Thank you to the Tahoma Bird Alliance and the Adriana Hess Wetland Park. I really love this space. I feel like we don't have to yell to hear ourselves. So this is a really nice space for poetry. Hi, come on in. Yeah, no, that's okay. We're just getting started. I wanted to say some thank yous. I wanted to thank Phoebe, thanking you, and Raven Chronicles Press for being here and selling books. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, you'll have a chance to do that afterward. I also wanted to thank Susan Rich, who can't be here, and Hiroko Seki and Stephanie Delaney. Stephanie did all the field notes in the book, and I really wish that she was able to be here, but she's going to be traveling. To hear her talk about those field guide notes, and you'll notice in the book that there's an interesting fact about each bird. And I always, every time I look at the book, I think of that as kind of Stephanie's poetic contribution, is like, what did Stephanie's eye see? And found this like a unique fact about each bird. So thank you, and thank you to Hiroko Seki, whose artwork is in here. I'm gonna start this in just a second. So that while you're hearing poetry, you're also going to see these beautiful sumi-e paintings. Thank you also to the poets who are gathered here. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you to the community who is gathered here to hear some of us read. Each reader has been asked to share their poem from the book, as well as another poem from the book that they choose, as well as something new of their own. So I said loosely like connected to the natural world, but it's kind of like saying, you know, bring in a political poem. Every poem is political, and every poem is kind of connected to the natural world. So something new. We're gonna get something new too from every reader. The refreshments and stuff are out there. I'm not taking cookies home, and I'm serious, so you better eat those. And make sure your cell phones are off. Bathrooms just out here. And also some of our poets have their books for sale, as well as Birdbrains. So make sure that you check those out. I'm going to introduce each reader between like each reading, and so that'll give them time to kind of move between the chairs and come up here. Make sure you don't stand right there, because you're going to get a screen in your eye. And if you need to set something down, you can set something down just over here. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the first reader, and it's kind of just in the order that I got the bios. Sorry, everybody, I'm just going to surprise you when it's your turn to read. But Jeanne Morel is the first reader. Stop, there you are. Jeanne Morel is the author of the chapbooks I See My Way to Some Partial Results, Jackpot, and That Crossing Is Not Automatic. She holds an MFA from Pacific University. Nice. Recent work has appeared in On Resilience, Stories of Climate Adaptation Across Washington's Landscapes, Birdbrains, Luna Magazine, and elsewhere. So please welcome Jeanne Morel.
Well, it don't have to worry about when I'm going to find out since I'm up first. Thank you, Abby. It's great to be here. Great to meet you finally. I'm going to start with another poem that came out about the same time, which is in this book on resilience. And both of these poems were unusual for me because I was writing to a specific prompt. I had to write about a subject. And I don't usually start with subject matter. It usually stalls me up. So, but I got through. Both of the poems also come from Eastern Washington landscapes. Out past Dayton, on a wildlife refuge named for Sheriff W.T. Wooten. 1. Out the car door, blue, and then a wild rose. Round hills brown like California. Gumweed, he said. We walked the wooden bridge across the Tucannon River. Bulrush. Up the hill, dug fir. Discover pass required. Burning garbage prohibited. So many signs. A splash of red. Some species may be at the limit of their range. 2. Mesic habitat. The ground wet, but not as much water penetrating the soil. For the short term, perhaps 100 years, perhaps less Douglas fir, more ponderosa pines. 3. Litter. Illegal drones, dirt bikes tearing up campgrounds, illegal campfires. Common sense, endangered species, quasi-extinction. 4. Talk of controlled burns, school fire, 2005, over 51,000 acres. Today, these days, firefighters busy. Wooten, low priority, no homes. 5. 3 federally endangered species, bull trout, Chinook salmon, steelhead. Loss of floodplain connectivity, increased water temperatures on the Tucannon, river restoration projects. Contiguity, continuity, conflict. Out the side window, political banners span the parking lot. 6. I ask about weeds, those place-based yet displaced unfortunates, displacing others. You look for yellow star thistle, and another. We find also dusted maps, fuzzed borders, wild and artificial. 7. Lakes constructed so many years ago. Ode to the sagebrush sparrows spotted off-road on the old Vantage Highway. The old road, studded with bunch grass, scrub step, silver blue clumps above the river. Below blue sky along the gorge. Spiders rustle, wind brushes up. Dear sagebrush sparrows, dear bird of concern, your number's low and going missing, but still, in February, you show up in pairs. Dear bird of concern, do you know there are federal files on you? And this is by Ray Armantrout, Traveling. Light propagates, as in propaganda, meaning it clones itself to travel. There are flame shapes in the wood grain now. The birds I thought were chickadees may have been nuthatches. We name things to know where we are.
Thank you, Jeanne. Our next reader is Cindy Veach. Second, Cindy Veach is the author of 3 full-length poetry collections, Monster Galaxy, Her Kind, and Eric Hoffer Montaigne Medal finalist Gloved Against Blood, a Patterson Poetry Prize finalist, and Massachusetts Center for the Book Must Read, and the chapbook Innocence. Her poems have appeared in the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day, bless you, Agni, Michigan Quarterly Review, North American Review, Poet Lore, Nimrod International Journal, and elsewhere. You're busy. She is the recipient of the Philip Booth Prize and Samuel Allen Washington Prize, and she's also co-editor of Montmagny Review. So please welcome up Cindy Veach.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And this is such a beautiful book. So I have 2 poems in here. I'm going to have the audience choose. I'm going to read a poem about ravens or the black-crowned night heron. So if you want the raven, raise your hand. Ooh, black-crowned night heron? I think that one, right? That's good, because I haven't read this one yet. Remembering the black-crowned night heron. Years ago, before I ended my long marriage, I saw a bird, hunched, a bird unknown to me, near the creek in our front yard. I saw it catch and swallow a snake, which tried to escape, but the bird insisted, and gulp by gulp inched the prey down its throat. Stocky, broody, a heron without the allure of the long-legged, long-necked great blue. A heron whose call is a bark, whose bill crushes a crustacean in seconds. A bird who'll care for anyone's chicks, who's dominated by other herons and egrets in the day, and hunts at night with light gathering red eyes. I see you, high up on a branch waiting for nightfall. I see you, still fishing at the water's edge, patient, persistent. With one lightning-quick thrust of your beak, you sever a crab's pincers. Take what you need without apology. And then I'm going to read, for the second poem from here, a poem by Savaga Crystal Bacon. She's a poet who lives in the Metap. Guillemot, will, desire, and strength. Out on the bobbing waves of the strait, a pigeon guillemot has caught a shiny silver fish. He shakes and shakes it, and in a burst of joy splashes his wings on the water. Then he skims, barely above the surface, until he's lost in shadow toward the island shore. Maybe there's a nest, a mate, hungry open mouths awaiting just such a gift. It's like joy, how hard it is sometimes to catch it up. Tiny, nourishing thing, carry it with us someplace we can share. I'm going to read a poem I have in this anthology, The Nature of Our Times, which is a beautiful book edited by Luisa Igloria, Eileen Casanetti, and David Hassler. And this poem is from sort of a series of poems I've been working on about the grief of things, imagining what the grief of things in nature and feelings like envy might be. So, the grief of dandelions. I was beloved, a queen, royal aerator, healer, brought over from the old world in a golden box, dethroned by the worship of lawns, by the Joneses. See how deep my taproot goes and spreads, tubers that claw down and clone themselves. My lion-toothed leaves push through gravel, cracked cement, thrive on barren. I love in a field how my yellow eyes multiply, a hydra sprouting, 2 heads for every one. First sun, then moon, then falling stars. Any child knows to make a wish.
Thanks, Cindy. I love those. Our next reader is Stacy. And I'm going to give you the most time because you're the furthest away from here. Originally from Buffalo and currently living in Seattle, Stacy D. Flood's work has been performed and published nationwide as well as across the Puget Sound area. He has been a finalist in the Playwrights Foundation Bay Area, Ashland New Play, and ACT New Play Northwest Festivals, and in addition, he was an artist in residence at Disquiet in Lisbon, Jurassic in Northern California, Oberpfälzer Künstlerhaus in Bavaria, and Malay Arts in New York. Furthermore, he's the recipient of a Getty Fellowship to the Community of Writers, and his novella, entitled The Salt Fields, which is out there, yes, is an editor's choice pick for both Shelf Awareness and the Historical Novel Society. So please welcome Stacy.
Thank you, everyone. So my first piece will be from the book, and my second as well will be from Rena Priest. So mine is called You Knew This About People and Birds, and the bird is the Caspian tern. They aren't laughing, she says as she turns from the riverbank into the future towards distant street signs and dinner plans and energy bills in some faraway ocean. I remain a little longer, looking out at the estuary and the Caspian tern soaring from one side of the banks to the other, their imprints barely breaking the surface of the dirt and rocks and other shadows. They're just birds, she says as she walks away. That's just the way they sound. But in my mind, as they dart and glide beneath the hazy, clouded morning, they are laughing at the new day together. A few fly away, tired of the joke, and others stand waiting for the rest of us, every other living creature, to understand how hilarious all of this is. These birds begin calling before they hatch, laughing at our expectations and apologies while still in the shell, all before they take their first breath of the open air we need. Maybe their song sounds more like a scraping than laughter, a peeling away not melodic but necessary as the gray sky lightens from the hidden sun. Maybe their call is really a blessing, attempting to expose the better in everything we see. I consider this as I move away from the shores myself and look at my wife, her shoulders determined and far away now, walking towards where I should be, in a car parked just beyond our vision, waiting to take us into the rising, dreading imminent, what lies beyond. I try to catch up to her at the horizon striped by tall trees, all the while wondering if the clouds will ever part to reveal sunshine, and hoping that, in that spotlight, Caspian terns can tell me the punchline before I disappear. And then the other one is by Rena Priest, and it is called Snipe Hunt. And the bird is the Wilson snipe. How often have I sent myself on a snipe hunt, chasing down one fantastical folly or another, returning empty-handed to the mocking scoffing of my wiser self. How else to cope with it all but laugh? I am lost, if not for a sense of humor and an eye on a world oblivious to foolishness, perhaps even finding it beautiful, the way I find that Wilson snipe with his dopey eyes and cartoon beak to be a prime example of how not to take any of this too seriously. And the last new piece is called The Lives of Strangers. Left to myself, I can spend hours just watching the colors drift from the evening sky, and I've always liked finding the last sparrow of the night, alone, silent with no one to sing towards. It's usually an hour past dusk when it disappears after darting from ground to gardens to foreign lawns and branches. I wonder what it's looking for, and I like to think that it knows. Next to me is a panticle of lilacs that colored the last to fade in the night. Those are my sister's favorite flowers, ever since we ran across a patch on one of our hikes. On weekends, we would climb a mountain until it was cold enough to see our breaths, and we would run all the way down as if, we would claim, we were being chased by dinosaurs or yetis. We did this well into our 20s. She has been in a hospital bed across town for the past 2 weeks. Her husband and all of the doctors say that the prognosis is good and that she'll recover. But these last 2 years, it feels like all I've ever heard is bad news. I haven't gone to see her because I don't want to be there when hers arrives. And right then, as I'm standing there, she calls, and once I answer, she says, "What are you up to, stupid?" I feel myself laugh. I think of the aspen trees we might see again, and whether they will remember us. And I hear the lilacs rustle, so maybe the sparrow is beside me all along. And maybe, once the night stars have evaporated into the dawn, both of us deserve a sunrise.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I'm gonna start answering my phone. How are you, stupid? I think that's great. Our next reader is Cynthia Pratt. Cynthia. Pratt, good Lord. Cynthia Pratt is a founding member of the Olympia Poetry Network's board, which has been in existence for 35 years. Her poems have appeared in numerous journals, including Raven Chronicles, The Raven's Perch, The Writing Disorder, The Last Stanza Poetry Journal, Kestrel Journal, Third Wednesday Magazine, and in 6 anthologies, including Washington Humanities and Empty Bowl Press's I Sang the Salmon Home, which is another beautiful book. She also has poems in 3 other upcoming anthologies. Her manuscript Celestial Drift was published in 2016. A former Lacey council member and deputy mayor of the city of Lacey for the last 12 years. Her term ended in December 2021. She's the first poet laureate of Lacey as of 2022. She reads Too Many Murder Mysteries and talks to birds. Please welcome Cynthia.
I'm going to read my poem first, and then I'm going to read another poem, and then from a poem from my forthcoming book, That Wild Knocking. It's called Visitor. The spotted towhee walks cautiously around the feeder, then hops back in the bushes. Not the right kind of seed, I guess. Insects are flitting about the leaves. Oh, little bird, your name has changed from rufous-sided to spotted, but the first rolls off the tongue like limoncello, the other a stutter of white flakes. Who are those that keep changing our names until we can't remember our own language? And I'm going to read a poem by Sandra Yanone, Sandy, and she used to be taught at the Evergreen State College and was on the Olympia Poetry Network board, but then she went back to Connecticut where her mother is, but now she's doing a tour of the Titanic poems, so she's in Dublin, I think, right now, or someplace there. 13 seconds in heaven. Bring me under, completely under with you, to forage with waterlogged food, snails, crustaceans, insects, plants, for just 13 seconds at a time on constant repeat. Let me eat all day like this, insatiable, elemental duck, hunger, submerged, eccentricity, my colored necklace around my sworn to secret underwater ravagings, my ducky feathered, larger than life, bubblehead. So, I'm going to read a poem from my forthcoming book, and lost it here someplace. There's oh no, I didn't, I just dropped it. If you want more information, I have bookmarks up on the table out there. And this is called Two Birds Send Me Disparate Messages. If the barred owl sits facing our window on a wire waiting, has death already occurred, or will there be more? Does he embody loved ones like a nimble ghost, a messenger? We make sure our son's smallest dog goes to the car accompanied, so he isn't a sacrifice to the silent night. Oh, wise spirit, what else do you bring us? Nothing much is left this season, this year. But no, the owl has left its roost. It remains just an omen or lucky parapet. Early this afternoon, a Townsend's warbler flew against that same bay window. Dazed, it sat on the pavement. Picking it up, I placed it in a small shoebox with tissues, set it in our planter under the eaves, noted its rapid breathing, but not struggling. I went to get pieces of fabric to help with warmth, and carefully tried to place stars and stripes of red and blue under the small, fragile-winged dinosaur, transforming it slowly. Twisting, it slips out of my hands, flew up onto the hawthorn's tree branch, then left altogether. Is that the message? Two birds, one near death, helped, and one waiting for a future death. Simplicity makes answers manageable, even if I don't believe them. Each day I wait again for the owl, thinking it will bring some prophecy that will satisfy my questions. I half ask for happiness, or at least less sadness. Can we save polar bears, penguins, snowy owls? Will my children and grandchildren live long lives? Is there hope for this damaged earth? A swarm of warblers gather at our feeder today, fattening themselves for winter. Maybe I saved one of them the other day.
Thank you, Cynthia. I think one of the things I really like about this book is that, you know, all of the poems, yes, they are centered on birds, and that was part of the prompt when we submitted poems, but they're about so much more. And I was thinking about that as we were coming to this event tonight, because I was like, you know, it kind of felt like a little bit of an escapism to come and just hear poetry and be in community with people. And then I thought, you know, it's not so much escapism, it's kind of, this is really giving us a way to process what's happening in our world and actually do that together in community instead of at home by ourselves, listening to the news and struggling with it. And I think these poems, yes, they're about birds, and they are also about death, and they are also about worry and joy and delight. And so it's really great to hear everybody's work that they're bringing in. Our next reader is Katy Ellis. Katy Ellis's second book of poetry, 40 Bouts in the Wilderness, was first runner-up for the 2024 Moonpath Press Sally Albiso Award. She is also the author of the novel-length prose poem Home, Water, Homeland, and 3 chapbooks including the award-winning Night Watch, Urban Animal Expeditions, and Gravity, a single poem which was nominated for the Pushcart Prize. Her work has appeared in a number of literary journals and anthologies including Mom Egg Review, Swim, Pithead Chapel, Rise Up, Literary Mama, Mayday Magazine, Burnside Review, and in the Canadian journals Prism International, Grain, and Fiddlehead. Please welcome Katy.
Thanks, Abby, and thanks everyone for being here. This is so wonderful. So let's see. I will start with my poem in this beautiful book, which is based on the least sandpiper. And it's a super short poem, so I like to also share the intriguing tidbit about this bird. The least sandpiper is the smallest shorebird in the world, weighing in at only 1 ounce. Yet they can fly nonstop for 1,800 to 2,500 miles during migration. So, to say the least is to say the smallest. is to say that's no twitch of the eye. It's like saying there exists in the world of peeps some greater, faster shoreline speedwalker. To spot the least, time-lapse stitchers of the strand, to hear their pin-piped preet, is to count the least among us. And then I really like, this is Calliope, the Calliope hummingbird, and this is by Ellen Bass. Just a few grams of glitter and hover. If you were a dream, no one would believe in you. The sparkling wine of your gorget, your stiletto bill. You've been called a feathered jewel, a hue of roses steeped in liquid fire. You're a spill of iridescence, 100,000 splintered mirrors reflecting the sun. Aerial acrobat, packet of embers ascending, crushed light. One forkful of the luster universe, and fierce, fast, you can claw and stab. You aim when you need to, straight for the eye. And so I'm going to read, this has a bird in it, and this is from 40 Bouts, my, in case you need a copy, there's some out there. And this is a Moonpath Press book that I'm super happy to be holding right now. And this poem speaks to the power of nature to heal, which I wish for all of you too. Then a robin. In our raw loss, new absence burrowed quickly to rearrange the loam. We three had come from the beach, my husband, our girl, and me, with prayers on our lips and a handful of shells touched by candle wax, when a robin twitched the ivy wall and caught our daughter's eye. Only the day before, she'd reluctantly confessed a wish to find a bird with a broken wing to care for in a little box in her bedroom. So we brought the robin home instead of the newborn boy we'd been expecting to swaddle into our lives. Tiny water dish, a single raspberry, a fleecy blanket nest. By morning, her robin had sprung from the box, chirping alarm to the birds on the eaves outside the open bedroom window. Before we left him in the understory of the hillside forest behind our house, she held the robin, not like a handful of wild blackberries, not like cupped ocean water, skeleton shrimp darting the palms. She held him like a labored love accomplished, a care she could now let the trees take.
Thank you, Katie. It's beautiful. Our next reader is Alan Braden. Alan Braden is the author of A Wreath of Down and Drops of Blood, an elegy in the passive voice. His poems have been anthologized in the Bedford Introduction to Literature, Poetry and Introduction, Thinking and Writing About Poetry, Best New Poets, Spreading the Word, Editors on Poetry, Cascadia Field Guide, Dear Human at the Edge of Time, Poems on Climate Change in the United States, Attached to the Living World, a new eco-poetry anthology, and The World is Charged, Poetic Engagements with Gerard Manley Hopkins. He lives near the historic site of Fort Steilacoom in Lakewood, Washington. Please welcome Alan.
Thank you, Ed. So the collective noun for magpie is, one of them is charm. So my poem is called Charmed. And I'll read that first. And I know Susan Rich doesn't really like this joke, but she's not here. So I'm going to ask you if you ever wondered about, if a bird burps, does it taste like worms and bugs? Just a thought for today. Charmed. Some thought they said pie, pie. The crow that ratchets from fence posts, not enough cuss and raucous, if ever the wind delivers a whiff of decay, when they aren't filching kibble or snatching ground nestlings, egg slurpers, vulturous appetite all gussied up in undertaker pallor for formal dining. Carcass dancers, their black gleams oil spill iridescence, the obsidian of a hearse. Sideways glancers, their white, the white of bones pecked clean. Roadkill comforters, a swoon of ants, a trance of flies, have set the table for these gristle wrestlers to hold counsel. We call it a charm. We called that meadow/crime scene the island because Simcoe Creek formed a question mark on 3 sides. Bone pickers, whose pallbearers are you? Another poem in the book that I chose ahead of time, luckily, is by Oliver de la Paz. It's called Leaving, and it's 1 sentence long. That's what appeals to me. So I'm going to try to find where to breathe in this. Leaving. The sheen of the drapes, bright green against the pond's water, reflects up against its throat, so that the green is mirrored there in the slickened breast, the sun twinning the bird, so he is twice iridescent in the rebound of light off water, and he lifts himself, not quite in flight, but alight, patterned and dappled with blue streaks flashing forward beneath his wings, which were once tucked under, but now shook blue and strange, with water parting from his plumage in an arc from his wing beat, pitched so that he rises now above where his reflection also lingers, framed by the concentric circles of pond splash, and then smaller and smaller still, as the mallard, who was once still, stills the pond with his leaving. And if I'd known there was this dead old owl over here, I would have brought some owl poems, but I brought this instead. This is, when my nephew was little, he was obsessed with a bird who was in the bird hospital in Bird City, and we were supposed to get on a rocket ship with him to go visit, but he was so easily distracted we never made it to Bird City, and so I always wondered, what would Bird City be like? So this is called Postscript from Bird City. Where sweetness is the only nourishment, not a peaceable kingdom, for there is conflict here, there is pain. But the bad inevitably are punished, the good inevitably blessed. Their stories, I suppose, have a storybook quality, peopled not with angels, not with true birds either, but rather creatures gifted with a human fluency and feathers apt as hands. The magpie tending bar can wipe away troubles. A seagull begging change is not really as down on his feathery luck as he'd have you believe. Osprey redirect the flow of traffic for a parade. Vendors give away candy shaped like children and rich as ice cream. Along these avenues to the imagination, the stacks of nests rise like columns of smoke from ancient sacrifice, where the promise of flight is any broken wing may heal.
Thanks, Alan. Our second to last reader is Michele Bombardier. And Michelle's new book, Don't Ask Me How I Know, was launched into the world 1 week ago. So there's like fresh baby poetry book out there on the table. and you'll need to get a copy. This collection was a runner-up for the Moon Path I'll Be So Prize and a semi-finalist for WordWorks Washington Prize. Michelle's first book, What We Do, was a Washington Book Award finalist. She was the 2024 winner of the Norwood Prize in Poetry and has had fellowships from Hedgebrook, Mineral School, Centrum, Tyrone Guthrie Center, the Edith Wharton Residency, and Humanities Washington. She served as the inaugural Poet Laureate of Bainbridge Island and is the founder of Fishplate Poetry, raising money for humanitarian aid through retreats and workshops. Please welcome Michele.
Thank you, Abby, for pulling this together. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be here with my baby book. I'm going to open with the first poem in Birdbrains, which is by my mentor, my first mentor, David Wagner. The words: wind, bird, and tree, water, grass, and light, roughly or smoothly, year by impatient year, the same 6 words recur. I have as many floors as meadows or rivers, as much still air as wind, and as many cats in mind as nests in the branches, to put an end to these. Instead, I take what is. The light beats on the stones, and wind over water shines, like long grass through the trees, as I set loose, like birds in a landscape, the old words. Excuse me. And I'm going to, so my book in the anthology is called Small But Sturdy, and it's also slipped into this book. The red-breasted nuthatch is a Wednesday kind of bird. Nothing Saturday flashy or Monday bold, a midweek parade of a bird with a tin trumpet call and a knuckled big toe, so it can march headlong down any tree with rough bark and crevices, a rare skill. 4 inches long with a rusty belly, monogamous, one big love with a sprinkle of drama. He woos her by dancing, wings out with a side sway. She likes a good dancer. She likes him near and will sound her trumpet non-stop if he strays too far. They work together to build their nest, store seeds, share childcare, winter in place. Some live over 7 years, blue zone birds. And me, 40 years married, 30 years in the same house. So many storms have shaken my nest. I watch the nuthatches plunge head first, finding bits of treasure no one else can see. So this last poem, I have so many bird poems in this book that it was hard to choose which one. So, eeny, meeny, miny, moe. How to be an optimist. Remember, all rocks contain water. Water vibrates, like voice, like memory. Microtubules, they call them. Navigation in a bird's brain, a wet system of coherence. The boulder becomes a pebble in the mouth of the river, and the pebble remembers. The nightingale flies across the Sahara in one flight to sing a song to his mate. Transience and endurance. How do we do it? We stack rocks on gravestones, water for the journey, a symbol of permanence. Remember, even tree roots talk to each other. They share nutrients, give warning, bear witness. This comforts me. When my nephew died, I imagine the tree he chose felt that tug, then the odd suspended weight, so he did not die alone. Believe in the flight of the soul. Even when the world is dark, remember water, remember rock. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. And I'm your last reader for today. Yay! Almost made it. I am going to read Matteo Quispe couldn't be here, so I'm going to read his poem, which is Dear Canada Goose, which is on page 7 if you want to follow along. Dear Canada Goose, you are the original silly goose, swan-shaped without the grace, honking walnut-brained bread solicitor, black-necked and black-headed, aggressively pecking for bread. When I lived with her, my grandmother would take me to Wallace Pond and bring heels of bread loaves. I fed you until I realized I was only feeding your aggression. Your name has never made sense to me. Nothing winged has a nationality. Creatures are not tied to the arbitrary borders of where they were born. I find a range map indicating you breed in Canada. A button on the page reads, "Learn more at Birds of the World," but I misread it as "Learn more about the birds at the end of the world." Is that how you feel in flight? When you migrate, are you fleeing or fighting? I too am a living heterotopia, unable to be pinned to one country, identity, culture. Has anyone asked you, where are you from? No, where are you really from? Have you ever answered? I look to the sky, and sometimes when I look long enough, I turn blue and vanish. Love that poem. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I didn't really introduce myself. I'm Abby, and I know some of you guys here, but I would say in my bio, I'm the editor of Collateral. It's an online literary journal. If you ever are writing about the impacts of violent conflict outside of or beyond the combat zone, send them our way. We read year round. I was the poet laureate for Tahoma, which was super cool. And my first book, Hail and Farewell, won the Perugia Press Prize, which was like one of the best things that ever happened to me. And my second book, Recovery Commands, just came out last summer. And I forgot to bring them to sell. And, like, totally typical. But I remembered the cookies. That's what I was really worried about, was that I was going to leave the cookies. So I'm going to read my poem from this book, and it is Advice from a Goldfinch. I love Hiroko's painting of the goldfinch because it looks kind of sassy. Wouldn't that be cool if it came up right now? Okay, Advice from a Goldfinch. It's okay to be a little dull in winter, to be lit from the inside, except when you're not. Wrap yourself as needed in the gray sweater of perseverance. Let your bright yellow name fall out in bitty tufts. Your body has already begun to regenerate. We can only let go of what we've been. And hey, there's nothing wrong with singing a wordless song. Spend more time in the woods. Your family is called a charm. Someday you'll miss being able to argue with your beloved about dinner, about the empty feeder on the porch, and whose turn it was to fill it. Bicker now while you can. Let the neighbors peep at you through their binoculared eyes and blinds. They wish they could be as free as you. And then the poem that I brought in to read, I wanted to bring it in because it keeps getting rejected. And normally people like bring in like, oh, this, won this great award. Like, this has been rejected, and I just wanted to give it a little bit of breathing room because I still like it. I'm really caught on politics and like calling things not political. Like, A poet recently said that to me, that he wasn't political, and I was like, that's fascinating. And so I'm always thinking about, like, what are poems? How are they not political? How is every poem not a love poem? This makes no sense to me. So this poem is called Every Poem is a Love Poem. I am near the ocean with all the other pebbles and seagulls and driftwood. Harbor seals surface and dive in the frigid waves, surface and dive. A little morning theater just for me, I decide, feeling celebrated. Every poem is an ode. I can never tell if a pod of splashing seals is playing or dying. I suppose it's both. We make a game of defending our lives. Every poem is a war poem. Nothing I can see on this shoreline except myself is fearful. Not the pebbles, the seagulls, the ocean, the driftwood. Even the maybe playing, maybe dying seals. And all I can think of are reasons to be afraid. Every poem is a how-to poem. My hands are warmed by a cheap paper cup of coffee. The seals tumble further down the beach, underwater and alive, and yes, playing, I think. As if predators and winter are just details in a story about the magnitude of happiness. Every poem is a love poem. Prove me wrong. Thank everyone for coming out here tonight. Please buy the excellent books that are on the table if you haven't already, and get something to nibble on and enjoy each other's company. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.